Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Welcome everyone to Theoryforge Chronicles. Thank you, Diggs.
I'm reading. I was about to say something nice about Caspian.
Oh, we'll go right ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just reading through his answers on the forums, and it's actually much nicer than I was expecting. So.
Yeah, he gives quite a thoughtful response to that.
Well,
opinion piece? Well, why don't you introduce everything?
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to Theoryforge Chronicles. Yeah, we're gonna probably spend some time. We were, as you heard, referencing articles. Anyone that watches our Ashes show, we sort of talked about at the very end of that as well, and just going over some of the, I think, critiques that have been put out there by so-called gaming sites, and sort of thoughts on that and. MMORPG.com in particular, massively as well. But
yes.
Anyways, how's everyone doing?
Great.
I'm doing well, getting over a cold. You might hear me cough once or twice, but that's fine. Good otherwise.
There was a mention yesterday by Snipe Hunter about the early access forums that I didn't know anything about, and I took a look and I saw some screenshots of Elyria. I'm much more excited to play that version of the game than I am the regular game. They should promote that stuff more because I understand
the cell shading.
That looks like a world that I want to play it. I'd love to make vids for, and I understand why I would want to explore that world, which I don't when I look at information from the main game.
Just because they go with the full fidelity version at launch doesn't mean they can't continue having that as an alternate filter that you can just pop on at any time.
Yeah.
Like remember there was the rasterizer, the retrofier filter for Landmark that they gave for April Fools. Something like that. It's easy to put various effects and stuff over, or even have it like restart the client if it has to run something that wasn't running. Whatever. I mean, it's possible. It's they could definitely do it if they wanted to. I'd like to see it too. I actually like the style too. I like both styles.
Something about the previous artwork it's meant to me, but what I saw yesterday for Elyria looked really nice to me. And I am very finicky about the games that I play. I don't just play anything. And artistic style is one of the important things for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's I don't think I actually have access. I believe the access to that forum is based on the level that you've bought in or something. But,
you have to have Alpha 1 access.
Yeah, I didn't actually buy in that deep. Yeah, I wasn't sure where the game was at, and I figured I'd end up buying some things after Kickstarter, which I have anyway. But I'm sure there's going to be some good stuff, and that was one of the nice things was the way that it was introduced is that yes, a bunch of people are going to be given access to it. It's going to be easier than trying to manage it on Discord. And the thing that people who don't have access should keep in mind is that just because they're not seeing the communication doesn't mean that the company isn't showing things to the players and that they aren't still making progress. They most definitely are still showing things to the player. And, I think now they're actually going to be a little bit more involved with the progress.
So let me, I'm going to post, so this is the article, it was MMORPG.com. I say article is actually an opinion piece, but which really sort of sparked a discussion, surprisingly discussion, because me and Diggs actually have different, or at least had different viewpoints on some of this, which did surprise me a little bit. So that's the article. It's basically an opinion piece saying more or less, this isn't what I wanted. I feel like I've been robbed. They're not talking about anything. They should.
We don't know what game engine is that the one.
We should be further along. They should be showing us more. We should be playing something. And before getting into specifics, so what annoyed me was that whoever wrote this, and I said I wouldn't call him the fucker, and I won't. Whoever wrote this clearly didn't really either doesn't follow or kind of loosely follows. And my initial thought was this was probably someone who is very much on the periphery, got brought back in by the last community event, which was, we talked about how poor that was compared to the one prior to it. So my guess is it's someone who really doesn't pay a lot of attention. That caught their interest for some reason. They decided to check it out, and it really wasn't all that great. And then wrote this big, long thing to thousands of people that when you kind of broke down different parts of it, made no sense. There's a part, we don't even, I don't remember the exact words, something about we don't even know what game engine that anything about the engine. It's like, no, we do. We know what engine they're using. Maybe you don't, because you don't know how to Google or ask, even though you apparently work for MMORPG.com and should have direct access to ask.
Yeah, it's not that the information isn't out there, and it isn't that you can't contact the developers or go into the Discord and get these answers from the players, or the future players, rather, the community, that people don't have the links already handy to give people, or already have the information already handy. It's all out there. It's very, very, very readily available. It was very disappointing to me reading this article from was it Tim Eisen, that I've read articles like this about things before, often in the form of reading somebody's critique of it that tears it down. And I guess that's what we are maybe not necessarily here to do, but that's kind of the feeling with something like this, is that it's just so completely off base that the only way you can talk about it is to talk about it from the perspective of how completely wrong they got everything. Like, it's not like they got things incorrect because they didn't get the right facts. They just didn't even look for any facts. They just kind of spewed some stuff and walked away.
Yeah, so anyone that follows the show knows, I'm pretty skeptical about COE and all, what they do, and pretty critical about what they've done. We were pretty upfront about the events and things they've done well, but at least it seemed like an honest assessment after having actually been involved in it. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. Our show is an opinion show. People are going to watch us and disagree all the time. What really made me frustrated was that this is a website that reaches thousands of people. And if you're going to have an opinion that is going to influence those people, you should at least have it based in fact. You should at least know what you're talking about. Because when you read all of the replies, people they clearly don't really follow it. And they're, yeah. And agreeing to things that just weren't really true.
I think at least half of what he was complaining about are true.
I agreed with we've talked about the cash, cash shop and cash grab. Yeah, that part, but I think there was a mention that in order to succeed, you have to spend more and more money. You get a little head start as you're starting the game, but I could come shank you whether or not you're a king. I could still do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can always use any of the stuff, and you might not even keep it through exposition. So it's one of those, you're gambling to take a risk. More than anything that you purchase is adding those things to the start of the exposition world. where things go from there, we'll see. But, not even necessarily that you're going to keep them.
But the way I recall the complaint was that most of the communication is buy this from this shop.
Oh, I mean, that is always somehow affiliated with it, but it's not like...
But that's the complaint. And then the other complaint was that blogs have gone south in terms of quality and frequency. And
did he say blogs or did he say communication? I felt like he said communication, not blogs. There's a difference.
I think
the word blog doesn't come up.
Okay.
Because my response to that was, well, Snipe is in our chat almost every show. I mean, if you want to talk, they're available to talk.
Well, that's not quite true. Snipe is available to us because we personally know him, and most people would not know that.
And Caspian's in Discord every day.
Yeah, and he has a problem with Caspian and the way Caspian communicates.
He wants somebody. He comes across as wanting somebody who always says yes, which is something we've talked about with Ashes, which I think is a problem and a bad idea.
Which part?
Someone who will always say yes.
Who is someone? So the writer wants someone.
That's what it sounded like. You don't listen to the players. Well,
no, I took it to be Caspian's demeanor and the way he responds to people, which I also have an issue with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I go to the final paragraph in the first line of it. I wrote this out of concern as a backer, and just, full stop right there. If you're a concerned backer, you have done a lot more research. It almost feels like, with a line like that they just went like looking for some reason to be able to write shade about the game and post a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like a 20 paragraph post or whatever. Word count. You're saying a lot of stuff. You're riling people up, but it
doesn't seem to be
just a bunch of fluff. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually come from any amount of research. You're not a concerned backer, dude. Tim Eisen, you're not a concerned backer. I'm going to say that.
If he was that far off, you wouldn't have other articles saying similar stuff. Other people would not be saying similar stuff. He would be like a drop. And we have that other article that was posted for us that's like giving them the worst game in development of the year or something like that. You would have that if there wasn't some smoke going around. But I do think, so my impression from this first person was just that, they've been away and not paying attention, and then they came back and, tried to get interested again and just were turned away by the state at which, there's been delays and, all kinds of stuff. So
was that the one that had the comment on map voting? There was one of them had a comment on map voting.
That was the next one with, I think that was from
Massively. Cause it was like, not very good. There were people involved throughout that whole, people who followed, that was like a real well-run big deal. It's like, I don't know what they're talking about.
That's what I hear. But again, that's not, I agree more with them than with you guys. I didn't like the Syrian plague, and map voting was okay, but
it
wasn't inspirational.
My bigger issue, my bigger, again, problem is I don't. People have opinions. That's the whole point. That's what we do. But at least be informed. You're not some Twitter user with 5 followers. You're posting a message to one of the larger, community sites for MMORPGs. At least be informed, because you have a lot of people there that, even just as a studio, you have a lot of potential players who are probably going to now say, that's not for me, based off of an opinion piece that really had several things wrong with it, because whoever wrote it was just upset and didn't take the time to actually read through it. And that kind of caught me off guard with MMORPG.com. I have a lot of issues with Massively. It's whatever. that seems more like a glorified message board. They just sort of echo what other people post or whatever tips they get. There's not a lot of thought behind it, in my opinion. But and I've given them a lot of stuff about Daybreak, stuff that if they had just looked, they could find themselves, but they don't do that. But so I don't know how that's reporting. But I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 different things that I've kind of tipped them on. PlanetSide Arena being the latest, but
yeah,
but I respect Bill.
You hack more than most people do.
You mean I look at publicly available data?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Hack.
That's not
hacking.
I know it's not hacking. I'm just saying.
It's completely fair to look through every bit and piece of something you've been getting.
Right, but my point is that Phantom does that more than.
It takes 5 minutes, and I don't run a damn gaming news site.
That's a thing that you do that is different from the way most gamers I know do. Wow. That's all.
But it just with MMORPG, it kind of, because I respect Bill. I follow him on Twitter. He's actually a pretty cool guy. So it's sort of surprising because he's their editor, right? That's his role?
I don't know.
I think so. He would have at least been somewhat aware. It's just if you have especially if you're going to be very critical of a game that you've not played, you should at least try to be as well educated in what you're talking about as possible. When you're in you have such a big audience. I've been critical of COE, but I followed it. I have you guys to talk to. I mean, I feel at least fairly
right.
informed.
But that's part of what I'm saying is yes, you are following it much more closely than he is.
So then I should have wrote that, not him.
Well, if he was following as closely as we are, then yeah, he wouldn't have written what he wrote. But he's not following as closely as we are.
So he's not a concerned backer.
Exactly.
He is a concerned backer. He's just not as invested because
half of the dumbass posts on that was about Kickstarter. It's like, it's 2019 and you're still arguing whether Kickstarter, you have to have something or, I mean, how long have we been doing this now?
Long enough.
What are you still having that argument for? It's like, if you don't know what Kickstarter is, don't use it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
The Massively one was just also, so I was saying, I don't know why everyone cares what awards they give, but, whatever. If I go high, if we all start writing articles, do we get to give out awards?
I mean, we can always
give
out awards.
Because I always laugh when I see some Twitter post of some, I mean, it's good for a studio to feel, liked and all that, but they post, we got an award. I'm like, who the hell is that? I don't even know who that is. So, anyways.
No, actually, the big money's in making the awards accreditation bureau that everybody who wants to issue awards has to go through you to formalize it.
I mean, it's really, who gives a flying, anyways. I am curious, though, since we're talking about this, because I was caught off guard, Diggs. I figured you kind of, I don't know why I thought you would react differently. But what were what were the things again that the biggest, that you actually, I think that's worth talking about, like what you actually agreed with. Like I said, I understood the cash stop part. I mean, that's been, I think, a valid thing that we've talked about. It's a Star Citizen sort of thing. But at the same, before I get it, sorry, I'm going to keep talking. Before I get into that, what other game do we cover? Ashes of Creation. And has there been really anything negative about that? Not really. But why? They sell things in a cash shop that aren't available right now. They've taken the Star Citizen route. So why is it? Why does somebody ding one game and not the other? I can tell you why. It's because you can play one game right now. At the root of it, it's the same thing. And that's also why Star Citizen's criticism has died down. They have been updating alpha after alpha. There's a playable game. And last thing, this is the same kind of fucker that would... the moment they put out a game, the moment they put out a demo or a beta and it sucks because the people wanted something to play, this article would have been the complete opposite. It still would have been shitty, but for different reasons.
Well, the difference between what Ashes, well, I don't know that we should really be comparing games in this way. I think that was one of Serpentius's fears. But
well, no, I don't want to go into. I'm just saying in a general term.
But it's different with Ashes. I feel like they put stuff out there and you buy or not. With Chronicles of Elyria, I feel like I get into events and the events are pushing me to buy stuff. Well, if you want to be more effective in this thing, buy this.
I've only felt that way about one event. And that was the last one, and I think everybody recognized.
And that was Searing Plague, and not.
But
that was Searing Plague.
But I could still participate in that.
Not voting was the last one.
No, the what was the last? I forget the name of it already. The loop turned into sort of loot box.
The raids.
Yeah, that one I agree with you. That one felt that well.
No,
I did not with Searing Plague because I could keep playing that regardless. I was limited.
Yeah, I agree, and that was one that I'm hoping that they'll kind of give a little bit more detail on their end, because the way that I gathered about ultimately about how it went down was that there were multiple iterations of it, and it changed based on getting more input from the designers later, but unfortunately it needed more, like it probably needed a full rework or something. So there are some errant systems hanging around, and the clarity of it wasn't so great. And yeah, it did kind of sort of have like a little stink of loot box to it. And yeah, I agree that, the fact that you couldn't continue playing the event, that whatever resources you were given based on how much you had already spent was basically all you were ever going to get unless you buy more resources. That definitely did not make for a satisfying event. I think it's okay, fundraising events like that. I mean, there's definitely the part lethality. I agree that they have to raise money somehow, and I just feel like it's a weird way to do it. But with
both of the events, and for Lost Vault, I just basically didn't play and refused to mostly participate.
That one I agree.
But with both of them, I felt that they were pay to win, and that they pushed pay to win. Pay this, and you will be able to participate better and play better if you purchase blah, 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 blah. And that's different than Ashes of Creation, which is not pay to win. It just offers the cosmetics, and you can choose to buy them or not if you like them.
I agree with you on the vault part, because there was a single, you had to buy more to do more, and there was a single player reward, right? There was a reward for single people. The Searing Plague, though, I mean, what are you winning? That was a group effort.
You got.
But what are you winning that everyone else doesn't?
It gave you rewards for buying certain things. Like I bought the doctor's kit, and you could buy
there are a few items that helped improve your efficiency, and ultimately that helped towards the amount of things that were unlocked for the cure side, and B, being able to get the cure side past the plague side, so that way the event didn't result in a loss in the end.
Well, but I feel like there's a difference between a group effort and something that costs money that provides to be a king.
Yeah, that's fair. And I would say
me to buy money in order to try and see that progress was being made with the event.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Here, what's not, everyone won when someone paid in Searing Plague, and that's my point in the difference. I could participate without spending.
No, because
if I wanted to,
I should not have been pushed into paying for stuff in the way that I was. I don't care about who else won. I'm just trying to see progress in this game. And because I couldn't see progress, I went to all kinds of links to see that I was making some kind of impact whatsoever. And so I went out and spent money just so I could see, would that help me make an impact? And that's a problem. And that's the difference between what Chronicles of Elyria did and what Ashes of Creation is doing, which is just saying, hey, we have these cosmetics, buy them if you want to. And I feel like Chronicles of Elyria frequently pushes things. And I mean, I feel pushed into buying things with Chronicles of Elyria in a way that I don't for,
like I said,
for anything else.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that was the one part of that that I've said similar things. So, what else was it? You mentioned the communication. I think that was another big one for you.
For whatever reason, I don't like their blogs. I don't think their blogs are enticing. I mean, even when I was trying to figure out how to play Searing Blade, and they made a video of how to play, it didn't really explain to me how to play. So
it didn't have enough information anyway. Like, I think they probably would have wanted to spend more time making it clearer if they had the time to.
So for some reason, I expect to be as inspired by Chronicles of Elyria as I was by Revival. Snipe Hunter is common to both. And I know how inspiring Snipe Hunter can be. And so my expectation is that I can go to, I normally am hanging out in forums. I don't hang out in Chronicles of Elyria forums or even their Discord, just because it's not enticing. And I don't know why they keep failing at that for me. But I'm not surprised when other people say that it doesn't work for them either. I agree.
Well, I think that's been something we've heard before, that how the communication is presented maybe could be better.
Yeah.
I still think...
And he seems to be saying that it went downhill, like he enjoyed it before, but after coming back, he has not enjoyed it as much.
Well, but he had a specific criticism of not just what was presented, right, but how it was presented to the players, like the listening to feedback, right? Which Caspian has a different way of interacting with people, and like anyone, if you don't have a personality type that fits with that, you're going to be turned off. But I think part of me, you have to look past that. What are they trying to create? Yeah.
No.
What are they? It doesn't matter if he came out in rainbows and butterflies.
It does to me.
Well. That's on you.
It's not on me.
Yeah, it is. You're the one feeling that way. It's not his fault. You've allowed someone to.
You're gonna make me be honest, and I'm trying to be diplomatic.
I guess because of what I do, I can look past a lot of those sorts of things and more towards what to me matters, which is I don't want somebody that says, "Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Sure."
I don't necessarily either, but there's I am anti-authoritarian, so you have to be able to be reasonably charismatic as opposed to being anti-charismatic. if you want me to participate.
Well, so be it. I guess. I don't know what to say to that.
I mean, again, I have to say it. I could phrase it easier, but I'd be,
I guess it's how you look at charisma. He clearly is enthusiastic about his life's work.
Everybody is. I don't know any gamers that are enthusiastic about their work. Or game designers. I don't know any game designers that aren't enthusiastic about their work.
If they're just doing it because it's just a job to get along, they don't actually care that much about that specific product they're working on. But I don't think that's the case for anybody working on anything we've talked about today.
Or anybody I've worked with.
See, the other thing I don't know, I guess maybe it's a different sort of viewpoint, especially because we're getting into so many MMOs that are really niche sort of, they're really, we have a wide variety, more than I can remember in a while, really, of existing and upcoming. And they all sort of fit their own little niche. So the idea that just because I gave someone $20 that they have to listen to me, I don't feel that way. I feel like, especially when you're developing, I mean, Elyria is niche. You know, there's a lot of things to it that are and people aren't going to like. So to me, you know, if they don't really, you know, they have their design decisions. I don't know that it really matters if I tell them, you know, if they listen to everyone, you know.
Well, and, you know, even Caspian, again, I have to say that I was very pleasantly surprised by what I just saw of his responses.
Was it the one where he said he reads every post, even if it's, I forget how he worded it, even if it sucks, basically, if it's hard to read? I mean, he mentioned that. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was very diplomatic in that one. I thought it was very well written, and it seemed more open than I've normally seen him, and not as combative as I've seen him. Now I forgot where I was going with that. What was the thing that you just said before that, Phantom? Oh, but I think one of the issues that we have is when we get these early access packages, most devs have been saying that, yeah, we want feedback and we want to respond to the feedback. And Caspian said in this article, or his response, that he feels that one of the reasons why they are communicating with a small portion of the fan base, 10K people versus the whole 250,000 player base, and they're getting special information, or they're communicating on the early access forums, is because they do want to take that feedback and adjust to it. So, transparency has been the thing that people have been talking about for the past 5 years. Join this early access program and we will be more transparent, and you will get to have a say in the design of the game, because we're designing the game for you. So when they give that feedback, because they paid their money to give the feedback and they feel like their feedback isn't being listened to, that seems like a legitimate right. If that's happening, or if
when I really am serious about a game and I want to give feedback about that game, the devs see it.
Yeah,
but will they respond to it? How do they respond to it? Whether they do, like this person is saying they feel like it's not making an impact.
I would say, like, the response I got from the EverQuest Next and Landmark team was a lot more subtle. Like, they were definitely hanging around. People definitely checked the stuff out. From what I understand, there were definitely whispers of actually hiring me onto the team before things got to, I guess, a critical point where they weren't really hiring and they were looking to cut down. But I still definitely felt like there was a flow of communication. If I really needed to know something, I could get an answer to it. I feel like this has actually been a lot more open. This and Ashes and Leucemia and a couple others that we've been seeing much more open and regular communication. And even when the communication isn't regular, again, you go in the Discord and you can find, Serp is in there all the time. Caspian's in there all the time. People are in there all the time. If you have a very specific question about something technical, especially if you are an expert in a subject matter, they asked for subject matter experts. So if you have a question about something specific, they want to hear it. The line of communication's open. It's actually more open than it's ever been than a lot of the games that I've worked on, or I've been following and like making fan content or otherwise in the past. So it's, I don't know. I look back over that article again, kind of while we've been talking here, and I feel like the article was like written in some sort of time warp where like every time they went back looking for information, it was just like exactly the wrong time or whatever, and it just happened enough times that they just got fed up or something. But I don't know. It's I feel like the level of communication they've been doing has actually been pretty decent. And if anybody really, not somebody who has a talk show, not somebody who has a big following, if anybody has a question for them or wants to pass something along, it's really not difficult to do so. It really isn't.
I don't know. I mean, if I did not have the level of contacts that I do with Snipe Hunter, I wouldn't be following the game still.
I still like the idea of the game.
I would still be much more irate about my experience with the development of this game than I am.
But I feel like people should understand there's a difference between giving feedback that you expect to be taken as far as, well, that armor style doesn't look right, or, well, this weapon's overpowered, versus, why do you have permadeath? Take that out. Right. That's a different level of, and that was a frequent comment also in the MMORPGs, the comment section. Oh, well, permadeath. Permadeath. One, you clearly don't understand how death works because it's going to be a while before you actually completely die. You clearly don't understand the whole idea of souls and rebirth. And
they think their character dying is going to piss them off, but 10 years of being invested in the game and the server reaches its end of lifespan. Oh, man, they would be pissed.
But so many thoughts on that. So one is just an ignorant gamer, but you do. But regardless, you're gonna have people who just loosely know. Again, people who loosely know what's going on in Star Citizen, loosely know what's going on in Elyria, loosely know what's going on in all these games. And when you have someone who's reaching them in a mass number, that should be, you just should clearly understand what you're saying before you put that out there. Especially for smaller studios, you could be entirely wrong in the basis of your opinion and sink somebody. Now, if you've experienced it, you're knowledgeable, you know what you're talking about, and it's just a shitty game. Okay, I mean that put it there, but just know what you're talking about before you do it. That's my main whole issue with that whole article, because you just read the posts and clearly these people don't know much about the game and they've now been influenced. I'm never buying that. I'm never doing this. I'm never doing that.
Again, if I did not have the connection that I have with Snipe Hunter, I would say I agree 100% with what they're saying. The only reason why I don't is because I have a connection with Snipe Hunter and I'm able to get extra information that other people aren't able to get.
But that information is there.
Because I have a connection to Snipe Hunter specifically.
It's there.
I'm telling you that with the information that I see, if I wasn't able to go to Snipe Hunter and say, hey, what's up with this? And he talked me down from the cliff, I would agree with them 100%.
So I mean that the information's there. Now that goes to, I just hate Discord as an information system. I mean, I've always said that too. I don't like when studios primarily use Discord as a way to convey information because it just gets lost so easily. But it's there. I mean, we're not.
It's there. It's there. Look, I'm a forums guy. I spend most of my time in the games that I follow.
You just said you don't join their forums, though. You just said you're not in the Discord. You're not in the forums.
I'm not. For Chronicles of Elyria, their forums don't entice me. Their website does not entice me.
And I have never had one-on-one conversation myself with Snipe, yet I still know these things. When I read that opinion, I knew he was wrong about them because I don't.
And again, what I'm saying is it's a problem when your website cannot get me to go to the website and I'm supposed to be following your game, or your forums cannot keep me in your forums and I'm interested at all in your game, because that's what spend most of my day doing, or even in the Discord. I've got the Discord, but I don't spend any time there because they don't entice me. So yeah, and when they do try to communicate, I've got to go to Snipe Hunter to say, what does this mean?
Wow. What award would you give them?
Oh, I would certainly agree.
Because we're making our awards now. So
well, I mean,
we're a show.
I don't
If we talk, we apparently can give awards.
So I would, if I read that massively article, well, when I read these articles, I'm like, yeah, I can see why they would get that award. Although, having been involved with Atlas in terms of playing with Neuro and Snipe Hunter.
Yeah, I was immediately thinking, oh man, Atlas was just a burning pile of shit on wheels. That holy hell. Holy shit, that was an award-worthy debacle for sure. That was an inverse award. That was a failure award. Holy shit.
But again, it's kind of worth reiterating that what I found very fascinating was my response to what I saw in pre-Elyria yesterday, just the snapshots of that world and everything, where I've been asking previously, why should I want to play that game? What I saw, the diversity that's available among the character in the character create, I understand now why I would want to play pre-Elyria without having anybody have to explain it to me. Whereas I still don't have a passion for playing the main game. And that's kind of fascinating to me.
So instead of the stormiest future, like the little engine that could, just keep chugging along.
So, but Anthem came up.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the controversy, other than them not being able to.
I'm just full of anger tonight because that's yeah. I'm just ready to punch somebody or something.
Well, I think probably the main problem that kind of connects all of this, that is not the problem specifically of any one development team, is that we are in a glut of these first generation MMORPGs, and we're all looking for the 2.0 version, and we don't have the 2.0 version. So we're desperately in need and want of this MMORPG 2.0. And there's just nothing.
It's basically the whole, like, what is it? The Meridian 59 EverQuest. Wow, that whole thread of MMO and everything else has basically just been a variant of that thread. It's like how every jazz song is basically just a variation of On Green Dolphin Street. You know, we have the root paradigm that we kind of look at for it, and I mean, there have been some variants that work. There have been the isometric ones, your Lineage and your Ultima Online, but we don't see anybody making a next gen version of those. I mean, the next gen version of that, I feel like, just ended up being more ARPGs and cutting out the MMO part entirely, and then trying to weave it back in for some reason, which Devilian just was not able to do. They tried, but it did not work. But yeah, the idea of going beyond, and not trying to make the WoW killer either, but just, okay, we've seen WoW, we've seen the static MMO, we want something new, we want something where the world actually changes. Like, we were given the promise of digital Dungeons and Dragons, which, you know, came out the same year as actual Dungeons and Dragons. And then, you know, years later in the future, role-playing is amazing still, and video games didn't really advance as fast. So, you know, something that's gonna, I guess, not necessarily bridge the gap, but use more of what we were expecting video games to be able to do, to be your virtual DM in a rich and robust world, is what we've still been craving and still waiting on. And, that's what, Elyria and Ashes and a lot of these other games are hopefully going to help us achieve.
Yeah.
So with Anthem, it sort of started out with people who I think pre-purchased got some friend passes. Yesterday there was a whole big issue with that. People couldn't get them, and of course that started the whole, well, this is, EA sucks, BioWare's terrible. And you get to today, and there's all kinds of login issues, server issues, and it's just, again, BioWare's terrible. They're no longer a game company. EA screws us over every time. And basically, there's a whole lot of gamers that are just whiny little bitches. So,
remember when people couldn't play SimCity for the first week because of server issues?
Well, and
now nobody even talks about that.
Well, it's just people can't focus. They're entitled. I don't know. It's a beta. It's a demo. What are you thinking? I mean, it's not like you're promised a finished product. There was someone who I actually respect. I won't use his name because I think he's actually a good person. But talking about this games as a service and how dare you? It's like, what you went through Landmark with us. What the fuck are you talking about? Mm-hmm. It's just like, why are we there? And is that a product of just how development has become open and more readily available? And we feel entitled that people like Snipe have to listen to us because we're the purchasers. We're the ones buying this. I just wish many times we could just go back to EverQuest where, they basically get a small group in for a month just because they want to stress the server. They're done at that point.
It's the monetizing. So once people are actually paying to test, then the customer is always right. And they're saying, if I paid for it and you give it to me, then it's released. And if it's released, then I should be able to critique it just as if it was a finished product. It's like,
it's stupid.
It's not a finished. They told you it's not a finished product, and they keep trying to remind you it's alpha. And then people think that alpha, well,
one word.
Then the state of what alpha and what beta means.
One word is dumb.
Entitled is another one, but.
I mean, but I was, it's just because it caught me. He was someone that we all know. I'm sure if I mention his name, you'd know who I'm talking about. I've met him in person. And it was just like, really? I mean, you're in a beta. Come on, you know how this works. You of all people, it's like, but this is everyone. And it's sort of the mob mentality of people getting into this, I demand what I want now. If it's not what I want, I demand that you change it to what I want. It's like, you're not the one making this game. You're not the one that came up with Anthem to begin with. You don't have the vision of Elyria. You don't own this company.
There are some challenges in that, right? Why? And we used to ask this question of each other 5 years ago. What is an MMORPG? Why do you play MMORPGs? RPG. And I don't like my characters to die when I play an RPG because I play RPGs to reenact trilogies and series like Tolkien or Piers Anthony's Xanth novels. I don't want my characters dying of old age and going into a new character. I want to maintain my character for years. And so trying to get people on board with the concept of your character is going to die is going to be a challenging sell to a large segment of the MMORPG community. And then you have to get them to realize you might not want to play this game. And they're going to come back, well, it should have this, it should have that. I mean, Ashes of Creation has the same thing with trying to put PvP and PvE people on the same server. And EverQuest Next was having the same battle too. We just never got close enough to actually do anything with it. But those are hard challenges when you're putting features in your game that a lot of people have issues with.
I think people also have to realize Chronicles of Elyria is a game that can't not exist with, it has to exist with permadeath. And it's built into the mechanics. It's built into one of my absolute favorite mechanics that I love so much and have been wanting for, I want to say since Diablo 2 is about when I came up with this line of thinking. The idea of the OPC, the idea that you aren't necessarily online, but your character is, and that there's this entire population that's there, whether you're actually there playing or not. But of course, that also comes to the idea that, well, if you have that and nobody ever dies and they never age and they never disappear, then you're going to have servers that end up being completely full, and most of it being this massive pile of AI OPCs that are constantly running, and nobody's even playing them anymore. I like the idea that people will get in, some will stay, and their characters will die as they play. Some won't. They'll make a character and they'll leave. They weren't into the game, and their character hangs around. Maybe they come back to it and they get an email. It's like, blah, blah, blah. Your character's only, got like 5 years left of their life. You might want to come in and, do your final rites with them. It's like, oh, shit, okay. So they come in and they see that in their stead, while they haven't been there, their OPC was involved with all this cool stuff. And now they've got some influence and some backing. And then someone talks to us like, hey, blah, 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 blah. Good to see you. It's like, wait, what? I have history with people? Holy crap. Like that to me is amazing, but you can only have that in a game with permadeath.
But that's going to be a hard sell to a lot of people. That's all I'm saying. People
permadeath,
be upset.
PvP.
And they're gonna.
Do you remember what I used to always say about Landmark and people wanting a sandbox? I don't think the majority of MMORPG players want a sandbox as bad as they think they do. They need to be directed. They need to be given a goal, because things like this that will be required, PvP, death, they don't want to deal with that. I don't, so I know our dream has always been the meow and evolving world and, what Elyria, what Ashes is doing. But that does require things that I just don't think a lot of people really want, despite what they say. You can imagine how many how many people, if everyone logged into Elyria the first day and got shanked in the back, lost whatever they started with and had to start over, what percentage would come back? And then when you try to tell them, well, no, you have to do this for this world to change. This has to happen. I think a lot of people will sit back and say, fuck that. I'm out.
I feel like there'd be a lot of naked people chasing down people with red names.
Well, yeah, some people would have fun with it. But I don't think
if it came down to that, they would just make the penalty for doing that steeper and steeper until it's you do that to 5 people who have been playing the game for more than a week, and your character's just like, oh, now you're old. Now you're on death's door.
So I don't know. I'm still excited. I wish everyone else would stay excited, especially even when you don't hear things you don't like. I was disappointed with the last event. I still want to see where this goes. The alternative to that, not having Intrepid, not having Soulbound, not having the Star Citizens. That's more harmful to what we want than anything else. So the idea of awarding someone most likely to fail, that's not helping anybody. That doesn't. I don't think that motivates anyone. It's just sort of, it takes time. They're a small studio. It's been 2 years. They're probably pretty damn far along compared to what a lot of other people would be with 2 years in a small studio. Just let it go. Give it a go. So.
Yeah, what was the other thing? So there's delays, and then delays are always like that's like another one of the main arguments is they promised it was going to be blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, the schedule is not a promise. But I think a lot of gamers just want to play an MMO. They don't care really about the RPG part. They just want the MMO part. And they want to play what they feel an MMO should be, which is grind to max for a little bit and then raid for gear. And they want to continue with that trend. And I don't know that they necessarily care about the theme park aspects of the grinding, but for them, MMOs are about raiding for gear, and that's what they're looking for, or crafting. Those two things.
I mean,
that's what they want to know about.
That's how it's evolved, sure. But again, those people, the ones that, this is a kill, this is a kill 10 rat quest. This sucks. This is boring. Okay, well here, you make your own quest. Go do it. Everybody, what? What do I do? How do I do that? Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Yep.
I don't know. I just difficult balance, I guess. So I don't know. Well, we are actually over our time. We started a little late, so I guess we're still at about an hour. So I don't know. Any final thoughts? Any feedback? This was a critical articles. Do you have feedback on? Well, I think you already given yours, Diggs, which is basically better communication.
Yeah, I should maybe even pay more attention to the early access forums now that I feel more invested in pre-Elyria than I do the main game. So we'll see if they're able to entice me more over there than in the main section. Actually, see, my feeling is that I would love for them to promote pre-Elyria more than they're planning to do, because that to me is the game to push, not the main game. But
all right,
yeah,
Neuro.
Really, for me, it's if you're going to keep doing events, learn from what you've done. Make sure that's something where you can participate multiple times without having to spend extra money for whatever the event is. And aside from that, I'm hoping there's maybe only one more event before we've got something we can actually play. Maybe 2 more events before they start letting the masses get a shot at it in some way. But works with their schedule, whatever's clever. The main thing is you have to keep events going if it's going to be a while before people are going to play. Even if the events don't add that much stuff, even if they're small events that you just do, like run 1 week every month, the same event, that you get a little bit of extra chances at some loot and some other things, and or maybe get things that you exclusively gift to people in game, something that's going to get people engaged and feeling like they're not having to spend extra to participate, but they're getting some sort of benefit from it, and maybe make it fun in some way.
I really think for me there's only one way this is going to change, because you're just going to have constant negativity for a couple. One, it's just such a different game, but I kind of alluded to it earlier. I think the only difference you see with the criticisms for like Elyria versus Ashes versus Star Citizen, there's one main difference. The other two have something to play. So the only way I think you really get past some of these things is just to have something to play. Now, that being said, the same people that write these articles that, see, told you, you don't have anything to play. It's been 2 years. I can't touch anything. This is terrible. It's all going to go to hell. Are the same people that the minute you put out something too soon, oh, this is shit. This is too early. They should, this is terrible. So I would like to see something playable, but obviously want to see something that is worth our time to test and play. So
yeah, and I was going to say that both with Ashes of Creation and Landmark, because I'm feeling the same hype and fun right now with weekend betas for Ashes of Creation that I was for Landmark. It's just fun to get in the world and run through the world and explore the world with people that you know in the forums, and or in this case Discord or Twitch, and just run around in the world. I mean, that's just fun for a month or two. And then that can get old. But there is just that hype of, hey, yeah, I can see that we're interacting with each other in a virtual world. And I think that would have been true for Revival too. Even just being able to get into our houses, we couldn't even interact with each other, but being able to see into each other's houses through Twitch, that, made you more invested in the game. So, and I was hoping that the events that we have in Searing Plague and The Lost Vault, I was hoping that was going to have some kind of similar feeling, but did not for me, although I hear it did for lots of people.
And I don't think that's going to do anything for bringing people necessarily back or expanding. That I see those, I think they're great. I think it's a great idea that you're trying to interact with your community and you're keeping people involved. Those events really are going to probably always be for people who are very invested and are already coming to your website, already coming to your Discord. I don't think those are things that are going to bring in new people. And that really, to me, the only thing that will do that is when you have something that people can actually put their hands on. That's not me saying, hey, rush and do this, but I think that's really the only way that waterfall trickles to a stream.
And I have to say, one thing that I think probably is not being appreciated by the people who wrote these articles, but also is not appreciated by me either, is these communities that already have formed and seem fairly tight based on royalty aspects and the guilds or communities that have bonded through that. They seem very tight and very interested, and they're the ones who are invested in staying informed and having meetings and working all kinds of stuff out. Those people are like having tons of fun doing what they do, which is very different, I think, from the typical MMORPG player. And I think that's one of the things that's being missed by these articles. And so when the events come up, these groups actually do organize in a way that your typical MMORPG player is not going to appreciate, I think.
It's really interesting, right? We should do a show about that, because like the what's behind that, because in a work, sure, you have a boss that tells you what to do. You're going to do what you have to do because you're at work. And what other place in real life, in your leisure time, your free time, are you going to let somebody come in and say, I'm your king, you're going to do what I tell you to do? I mean, in every other place, you're going to be like, what the heck? Get away. But there's these groups that have established for a virtual world. They do just that. It's just super interesting to me that
that should be our next show.
That's just so interesting, is sort of why do people already feel so invested that they're literally falling in line to a fake king or queen and doing what they say? It's just it's crazy. It's interesting.
That's our next show.
So. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. We all hope you have a good Friday night, good weekend. We will be back next week with our Ashes show, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks. So, as always, if you have anything that you want us to talk about, any feedback, let us know on Discord or YouTube or Twitch or wherever. Otherwise, we will see you in 2 weeks.
Later, everybody.